This year, 2025, marks the 1700th anniversary of a pivotal event, a historic event that changed the course of history for all these centuries. And it defined and articulated what Christians really believe. And that's what I want to talk about over the next episodes. We're going to be doing a series on what Christians believe about God, about eternity, and other subjects. And this event that happened 1700 years ago was really a watermark that defined what Christians believe in a very, very important way. The year was 325. The place was a small city called Nicaea. It's on the coast of Lake Iznik. It was a resort town. There was an imperial palace of the Roman Empire there. And what better way to convene 300 plus bishops from around the Roman Empire than to host this thing on a beautiful lake, a resort? There's a palace. I mean, come on. Of course they're going to be there. It was the Council of Nicaea. And that event that took place there at Nicaea was so pivotal and so important. As I said before, it articulated what Christians believe and still believe, and frankly, we would say have always believed right from the beginning. And so, what was some of the historical context of the Council of Nicaea, convened in 325? What was happening in those years leading up to this pivotal event? Well, early in the 4th century, in the early 300s, there were two Roman emperors that were persecuting the Christians. One was Diocletian, the other was Galerius. But at any rate, these Diocletian and Galerian persecutions that happened right at the beginning of the 4th century was really the last great push of persecution that happened in the Roman Empire against Christians. Now, that persecution ended in the year 313 when Constantine the Great issued the very well-known Edict of Milan, the Edict of Toleration that said, hey, no more persecution officially of Christians. We're turning a corner. If you want to be a Christian in the Roman Empire, there's not going to be a problem. So that Edict of Milan, or Edict of Toleration, really marked a before and after for the Christians of the Roman Empire. And we have to think that at the time of the convening of the Council at Nicaea in 325, these persecutions were within living memory. Just a few years earlier, recent memories, many Christians had suffered persecution or known people who had suffered persecution, even those who had suffered martyrdom. These memories were very fresh. The reason that I emphasize that point is because today, some of the revisionist historians would look back on the official sanction by Constantine and his government, that official sanction of Christianity, that official raising of the standard of Christians in the eyes of the government and the toleration that was granted. And they would say, oh, well, Constantine just decided what Christians were going to believe. He convened this council. He got the bishops together, and under force, he coerced them into accepting what is now Christian orthodoxy, Catholic Christian Orthodox belief. Now, think about what that actually would mean. You're talking about bishops from around the realm, many of whom themselves had suffered intense persecution, and they watched their flocks suffer that persecution under Diocletian, under Galerius, just 12 years earlier, a little bit earlier. Is it really believable to say that those same men that had endured torture, endured hardship, persecution, like you and I can probably not even imagine, is it really believable to think that they would suddenly be put under the thumb of Constantine the Great? They had already told off two of his predecessors, and I'm sure they would have told him off as well. So it doesn't really bear with the facts to claim that Constantine somehow manipulated Christian belief or imposed some type of top-down Christian orthodoxy. It's an important point. Now, what is true is that Constantine had just united the empire, both the Eastern and the Western Roman Empire, under his rule, under his leadership. There was a decisive battle that had occurred in the Milvian Bridge area. It's called the Battle of Milvian Bridge. That was in 312 AD, just the year prior to this Edict of Toleration. Now, there is a story, it maybe would be the level of hagiography, kind of sacred myth. It's hotly debated, but according to the early church historian Eusebius of Caesarea, Eusebius was not only an early church historian, but he was actually an unapologetic, and some would say shamefaced partisan of Constantine. And so he, really seemed to favor Constantine and want to paint him as an ideal figure, an ideal leader, whatever that may be. The story goes that as Constantine and his army were approaching Milvian Bridge and getting ready to engage this battle against his opponent, his imperial opponent, whose name escapes me at the moment, that suddenly there, as they're getting ready to battle, this sign, this illuminated cross appears in the sky, and the words "En Teutonica," or "In this sign conquer," appear to him. And Constantine takes it as a sign that he will conquer. The facts of the matter, regardless of the facts of this story that I just told you, the historical facts that are proven and substantiated, are that Constantine did, in fact, go on to win that decisive battle. The empire was united under his rule, and I'm sure Constantine was eager to maintain that hard-won peace in this newly united empire. But there was trouble on the horizon, and the trouble was stirring and being fomented concerning Christian belief, and it was being put forward by a guy named Arius. Arius was causing some major disputes, some major upheaval in the Christian community, and it was threatening this new unity in the empire. And so Constantine did, in fact, seek to resolve it and attempted to resolve that. But it would not be factual to say that he imposed his views. Honestly, I don't think Constantine really had a dog in the fight. He just wanted the bishops to get together and come to a decision. And so, who was Arius? Who is this Arius? Well, Arius was from Alexandria. He's sometimes called Arius of Alexandria. He was a priest from Alexandria, which is in Egypt, a huge center for Christianity. It was one of the 5 patriarchates, what they call the pentarchy, one of these 5 important sees or seats of Christianity. Alexandria was an important city, I believe the largest city in the empire. Arius is a priest there. He was set over an important church in Alexandria called Bacchus, and it seems that he was marked as a successful preacher. He was popular, we could say. Maybe he was really toothy, and people must have liked his sermons. He was also noted for his asceticism, his discipline, but there was trouble afoot. He came forward around the year 319 as a champion of subordinationism. Now you're thinking, okay, what is subordinationism? Well, it's basically, in a nutshell, a teaching about God that posits Jesus as somehow subordinate or inferior to the Father. In fact, Arius went so far as to say that Jesus wasn't really fully God at all. And the controversy, Arianism as it is called, began to spread quickly, and it became a real problem. Arius and his followers insisted that Jesus Christ, the Son, in his eternal state, his pre-incarnate state, was just of a similar substance to God the Father, but not the same substance, that he was somehow inferior. He would use the term homoousios, which just means similar essence or similar substance, but not equal, not consubstantial. We'll unpack this more as we move forward in the podcast. But essentially, the teaching of Arius was Jesus was not co-eternal with God, that God existed before, and that Jesus was the first and most exalted of his creatures, but a creature nonetheless, elevated, exalted, but not co-equal with the Father, not co-equal with God, hence subordinationism. There in Alexandria, they tried to tamp down this heresy. They recognized it as a problem even at the local level, and the bishop of Alexandria, Alexander, convened a synod in 320 and condemned Arius and his teaching, but the heresy continued to spread. Arius continued, I suppose, to propound this in some way, and it just seemed like it was not getting resolved. And so what did Constantine do? Well, according to some of the sources, what seems to have occurred was that Constantine got a bishop named Hosius or Osius of Cordoba, Spain, on the case. From about 313, this bishop Hosius was a sort of imperial advisor, religious advisor, we could say chaplain to the emperor, something of that sort. And Hosius was sent by Constantine down to Alexandria to figure this whole thing out. Some people actually say he was at the synod that I mentioned in 320. At any rate, rather, in the early stages of this Arian controversy, Hosius goes down to Alexandria. He wants to investigate. He's investigating this dispute between Alexander, the bishop, and Arius, the priest. And we could say it was probably like the original come to Jesus meeting, literally. So Hosius is trying to bring Arius back into the Orthodox fold. Arius apparently is rejecting that. He didn't apologize or repent from anything we see. He was recalcitrant. And so, as I said before, the problem just seems to keep going on. Constantine's trying to resolve it. There's a peace, this fragile new peace that's just been established, and Constantine doesn't want things to keep going down the wrong path. And so that really is the context that led up to the Council of Nicaea, which was convened in 325 in modern-day Turkey on the east coast of this lake, this resort town. And it was to that place, to the imperial palace, that Constantine convoked bishops, some 300 bishops from all over the empire and even beyond the borders of the empire, to deal with this question of Arianism, Arius and his teaching, and to settle and clarify what it is that Christians believe. So we're going to pick this up in the next episode. I hope you've enjoyed this. Hey, before I let you go, if you would, take a minute, like, subscribe, comment, rate, review. It helps so much as we try to get this content out to people that will be interested in it. And I believe and hope that just like you, they'll benefit from it.